What's clear is that the easy money has been made. So I think US market can still go higher, but I think the grind higher will be much more difficult. There will be much more volatility. And therefore, I think investors really have to be much more selective from a stock to stock, sector to sector's perspective. There are still some growth to be found in a consumer discretionary, for example, as the economy reopens, as consumers' pent up demand continues to power on spending. And of course, with that, financials and banks also can still have that opportunity. But I think by and large, it's still going to be a very tricky and challenging time in the weeks and months ahead.
And of course, James, one of the things we're all keeping a close eye on is what we're going to get out of the FOMC meetings, Jackson Hole, the next FOMC meeting, the signs for QE tapering. Just how big an impact do you think that's going to have on the markets?
I think first and foremost, I think the Fed would want to give themselves much more flexibility on the timing and the calibration of the QE tapering. I think for one, yes, America is recovering and reopening, but the rest of the world, especially in Asia, it's still facing the Delta variant, and growth has actually slowed down in many parts of Asia. And therefore, I think the Federal Reserve would likely be much more judicious and calibrated and give themselves much more flexibility in terms of its QE tapering announcement. And therefore, I think that it's going to be something that is going to be very well telegraphed, communicated, and calibrated. And it's going to be very slow across a year, probably in 2022, in which the tapering process will be very slow. So I think from that perspective, the impact on markets would likely create some short-term volatility, but I don't think it will cause a big gyrations of sorts.
If you use volatility as your friend in Southeast Asia, then your wheelhouse, James, what's your strategy?
Well, I think in Southeast Asia, our strategy remains a nuanced approach. Many countries are still facing the rise in Delta variant cases. But I think within Southeast Asia, we are bullish on Singapore. We have been bullish on Singapore since the beginning or even late last year, and which has been doing extremely well, really, because Singapore has managed the pandemic relatively better. And of course, we have reached higher vaccination rates. And therefore, I think Singapore is one of the areas where we can find income and dividend income, and it's a high-yielding market for many equities. So I think from that perspective, it's going to be one of the markets we think that would stand out compared to the rest of Southeast Asia.